Previously on The CEO's Wife. Priscilla was forced to attend her sister Regina's birthday party as a stepping stone for Regina and Ryan's engagement announcement. After a humiliating family dinner, Ryan confronted Priscilla outside the mansion with cruel accusations. But just when things seemed darkest, mysterious billionaire Frederick Lincoln appeared in his Rolls-Royce. During an intimate car ride, a drunk Frederick called her Mrs. Lincoln-to-be, reminding her that in just 2 days, their marriage will become official. At Famous Entertainment, Ryan made his move, hiring legendary PR professional Terry and signing Regina as an A-list artist, threatening Priscilla's position as PR manager. But Priscilla had been preparing. She walked into that conference room with a secret weapon. What happens next will shock everyone. Now the moment we've all been waiting for. Everyone seemed to understand it, and only one person raised a question. Since Terry will be the manager of the PR department, what position will Miss Priscilla hold? The person asked. The crowd liked Priscilla. Ryan glanced at her, and after remaining silent for 2 seconds, he said in a deep voice, Priscilla will be demoted to an assistant manager. She should learn from Terry first. There will be plenty of opportunities for her to get promoted in the future. The crowd was startled and speechless. It was not uncommon to make mistakes and be demoted, but Priscilla had made great contributions to the company, and it was really embarrassing for her to get demoted after what she had done for the company these years. Priscilla finally showed a hint of a sneer. Under everyone's gaze, she calmly stood up and propped her hands on the table to look at Ryan, who was sitting in the host's seat. Mr. Smith, you said I lack experience in understanding the depth of the industry as well as connections. Do you have any proof of that? Priscilla asked. Ryan was in a daze. He had to admit that every case handled by Priscilla was so well that there was no evidence to show that she lacked anything. Priscilla's clear, cold eyes stared at him and sneered. Since you don't have any proof, what makes you so sure that I will definitely lose to Terry in these 2 aspects? She asked again. Ryan didn't answer her questions. Priscilla smiled coldly as she watched his stumbling looks. She stayed up late to read materials and learn case studies to understand the industry over the past 2 years. To pull in contracts for Famous Entertainment, she, who had never liked to socialize, had attended many black tie parties. For numerous times, she directly vomited on the table to bring more resources to Famous Entertainment. She worked overtime until midnight and returned home exhausted, only to be revived by a call from the brokerage department. It was said that whenever something happened to a performer from Famous Entertainment, the matter was always resolved promptly. However, no one understood how much hard work and sweat were behind this. Ryan couldn't see it, or he avoided it deliberately. Now he even demoted her, blaming her lack of qualifications. Everything seemed so ridiculous, and Priscilla had never felt so despair. Even though she was easy to resign, she didn't expect Ryan to do such a shameless thing to her. Ryan remained silent for a long time, and finally said in a serious tone, Priscilla, this is a chance for you to learn, to be humble, and in the future. Ryan was suddenly cut short in his words. There isn't a future! Priscilla sneered and pulled out her resignation letter from her notebook, suddenly. Snap! The letter was thrown in front of him. Isn't this what you want? I agree. I just don't want to stay in this company to be bullied by you. You can invite anyone to take charge of the public relations department. I resign, Priscilla said. As soon as Priscilla finished her words, all of Famous Entertainment's senior executives changed their faces and started to persuade her. Miss Priscilla, please don't be impulsive, one of them said. Miss Priscilla, Mr. Smith doesn't mean that, another said. After all, they were only jealous and discontent when she became the PR manager at such a young age and achieved everything by her own efforts. Nobody expected that she really intended to leave. After all, she has a great talent. In the past 2 years, it was because of Priscilla that the PR department was able to get better and better. The stronger the PR department was, the less work the artist department and brokerage department would do. Especially for the brokerage department, what they feared most was that something went wrong with the artist they took care of. And once something really happened, they could always turn to Priscilla for help, because she could handle it perfectly. And sometimes, even a bad start could bring a good consequence to the artists. But now, she was going to resign. Not to mention what the above-mentioned two departments would turn to for help once she left. Terry, although she was famous, they never cooperated with her, and they didn't know much about her. What if she were not as good as Priscilla? Everyone panicked at once, and Ryan's face darkened. Priscilla, stop kidding. This is not something to make a joke of, Ryan said. Priscilla sneered. Am I kidding? It was you who wanted me to resign to prove that you are not that ruthless. I have been so cooperative. What else do you want? She asked. Ryan's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Let me tell you, I'm not trying to force you to resign. Terry is more qualified than you, and the position of PR manager should be hers, he said. Priscilla shrugged indifferently. You know what? I'll quit even if you don't bring her in today. I wish Famous Entertainment would become better and make further progress in the industry. After saying that, Priscilla sneered, dashingly closed the notebook in her hand, and walked out without looking back. Clang! The door of the conference room was shut. It seemed the office still held the residue of the woman's legacy, cold and overwhelming. Ryan gritted his teeth and hands. He had expected what might happen before he brought Regina and Terry in today. However, he just didn't expect her to leave so decisively. Looking at the resignation letter in front of him, Ryan's eyes were cold. Priscilla left Famous Entertainment. When she left, there were a few co-workers who came to see her off, but most of them did this out of respect. After reaching the parking lot, she put her belongings in the trunk and drove directly toward the Smith Group. Harold was an honest man and had already prepared the transfer documents and cheque. When Priscilla arrived at the Smith Group, Harold was in a meeting, and it was Ben who received her. There were 3 subsidiary companies under her name. 2 of them were liquidated as she had requested last night, leaving only one. Priscilla readily signed the document and handed over her marriage arrangement paper to Ben. After all the formalities were handed over, the meeting Harold was in was not over yet. Ben asked her if she wanted to sit down and wait for a while to greet the chairman before leaving, but Priscilla politely declined his suggestion. She had already gotten what she wanted, and there was no need for her to meet anyone from the Smith family. After leaving the Smith Group, it was still early. Priscilla went to her store again, and the assistant who had returned to work stood up happily behind her desk when she saw her. Ma'am Priscilla, our business is good today. We have dozens of orders within half a day, Paulina said. Priscilla smiled and encouraged her. Good job, keep up. Priscilla picked up a white A4 sheet from her bag and posted it on the window. Paulina came over to look at it with curiosity and was startled when she saw that Priscilla was going to transfer the store. Ma'am Priscilla, are you really going to transfer this store? Will you stop running it? Paulina asked. Priscilla nodded. You can stay working here. I will talk to the new boss personally to keep you, she said. Paulina's face changed slightly. In fact, Priscilla had no choice but to make this decision. If she wanted to start her own agency, she would definitely devote all her time to it. She was afraid that she wouldn't have time to run this store. Even if the store was doing well, she had to transfer it, considering her current situation. After posting the transfer notice, Priscilla chatted with Paulina for a while before leaving. She had nothing to do that afternoon, so she asked Nancy out and went shopping together. Nancy the No, one beauty in the entertainment industry today, was once named by a media magazine as a rare beauty of our time. She was the daughter of the chairman of the Hanson Group and was Priscilla's high school classmate. They were very close friends. As soon as they met, Nancy sighed twice and said to her, Priscilla, as soon as I heard you were dumped by a man, I quickly rushed over to comfort you. But look at you. You aren't looking sad at all. Priscilla was a bit surprised. How did you know that? She asked. Well, the whole world knows that, and it's hard for me to ignore it, Nancy said as she handed over a birthday invitation card to Priscilla. Priscilla flipped through, and she saw it was sent by Ryan and Regina. Priscilla was speechless, but Nancy smirked and said, Just tell me when you bump into this bitch adulterous affair. A few days ago. Priscilla looked at her gloating look and felt a bit depressed. Well, why are you so happy after you have been dumped by someone? Well, I'm glad you have been dumped. Ryan is simply a drug in society. It is good to break up with this kind of person, saving you from the foolishness of past years, Nancy said. Priscilla remained silent. Nancy always disliked Ryan, and Priscilla knew it a long time ago. When Nancy found out they were together, she advised her a few times to quit. Although women in love are blind, Priscilla was devotedly in love and wouldn't believe a word she said. Now it seemed that what she said was true. Priscilla smiled sardonically and didn't say anything. They went shopping at a nearby mall. Just then, a black Rolls-Royce passed by, and David Gold caught a glimpse of the two who were walking inside the mall and said in surprise, "Isn't that Miss Priscilla?" Frederick lifted his gaze, which was looking at the documents, to the direction where David pointed and paused slightly. "Stop the car," he said with authority in his voice. Priscilla and Nancy were wandering about for a long time and finally entered a women's fashion store. It was a luxurious store with elegant interior decoration and a clean, luxurious smell in a light, cool, and pleasant environment. Nancy had ordered a long dress earlier and came over to pick it up. The shop assistant knew her, and after greeting her, she took her to the VIP room on the second floor to try the dress on, so they could modify it if the dress didn't fit. Nancy turned to Priscilla before she left and said, "Sweetie, just wait for me for a while. I will come down soon." "Sure," Priscilla nodded. After Nancy went up, Priscilla was bored waiting and simply wandered around the store. It was Monday, and there weren't many customers in the store. The sales assistants were buried in conversation or playing with their phones. No one came to serve her. Priscilla didn't care, and after browsing around, she saw a navy blue dress hanging in the window with a uniquely nice style, a bit like a certain Italian designer's work she had seen in a magazine before. She had always taken a fancy to that designer's work and was kind of a big fan of his, so she couldn't resist reaching out her hands to touch it. "Hey, it's okay to look around, but don't touch it. You can't afford to damage it." A woman's voice suddenly came from behind her. Priscilla froze and turned around to see a young sales assistant standing there, looking at her with displeasure and disgust. She frowned slightly. "Don't you hang your clothes out for your customers to try on?" "How come I can't touch it?" Priscilla asked, feeling irritated. The sales assistant sneered. "It's okay for others to touch, but not you." "Why?" Priscilla asked. The sales assistant rolled her eyes, seemingly annoyed with her for making a fool of herself. "Do you know how much this dress costs? And how much you can earn as an assistant? Your salary in a year wouldn't be enough to buy it. Do you know?" she said. The sales assistant came up and snatched the fabric out of her hands. Then she pushed the rack of clothes to the other side, and while doing it, she said, "I am tired of you hanging around and not buying anything. What's the point of you shopping when you can't afford it? It's so annoying." Priscilla was exasperated. It wasn't the first time she had been shopping with Nancy, but it was the first time she had been treated as an assistant. Assistant. Priscilla got stubborn and sneered when she raised her arms. "What if I insist on trying it on today?" The sales assistant frowned as her colleagues next to her heard the noise and came over. "What's wrong?" she asked. The sales assistant whispered a couple of words to her colleague, and they both let out a forced smile. "Miss, this dress is newly released and costs $100,000. Are you sure you want to buy it?" she asked. Priscilla sneered. "You asked whether I would buy it before I tried it on. Your shop is really good at entertaining customers." "I'm really sorry. We are trying to protect the interests of other customers. After all, the clothes in our store are expensive, high-end fashion. If everyone tries them on without buying them, won't the clothes become a second-hand bargain? Don't you think so?" she asked. The sales assistant smiled, but her eyes were full of sarcasm and mockery. Priscilla thought that today must be her doomed day. How could she come across such stupid people? She is Priscilla Walls, who has always been well-educated, but just wanted to curse and say dirty words. She got a check from her bag and slapped it on the counter. "Can I try it now?" she said with all authority. The sales assistant glanced at it and was startled. The check, excluding the first few numbers, was accompanied by several zeros. Without counting, the sales assistant knew it was at least $1 million. Their look immediately changed, and they smiled ingratiatingly. "Surely, hold on, I will take it down for you," she said. Priscilla grunted coldly. For the sake of the designer she likes so much, she didn't want to bother with them anymore. She grabbed the dress and went into the fitting room. The dress fit her well. No wonder it was the dress of her favorite designer. The gradient of dark green was both understated and luxurious, and couldn't find any fault in its workmanship and design. When she was out wearing the dress, the sales assistant was totally surprised. They thought she was Nancy's assistant because she followed her quietly and wore casual clothes. But no one felt that now. After all, the woman in front of them would never be an assistant, whether from her figure, her look, or even that cold and flamboyant aura. The sales assistant who received her earlier came up excitedly. "Miss, you look gorgeous in this dress. There are so many customers in our shop. I haven't seen anyone looking amazing wearing it." The other echoed with her, not kicking ass but telling the truth. Priscilla curled her lips and smiled. After changing back into her clothes, she graciously put the dress down on the counter. "I will take it," she said. The sales assistant was happy. She was thinking that she would hold a grudge and refuse to pay the bill because of what they said earlier. However, it seemed that they were completely overwrought. Just then, a young man and woman walked into the store. "Well, isn't this Priscilla?" a female voice said. Priscilla turned back, and her face darkened. It was really her bad day. She didn't want to be bothered with them, and turned to the assistant and said, "Wrap up the dress properly and check if there is any flaw by the way." "Yes, ma'am," the sales assistant said. The sales assistant happily held the dress and was about to pack it when she was suddenly stopped by someone. Annabelle glanced at the tag on the dress and laughed. "Well, you just got a fortune from my brother, and now you are acting like a millionaire. A dress with a price tag of thousands of dollars. Priscilla, do you deserve to wear it?" Annabelle asked. Priscilla lowered her eyes coldly. She then said, "It's not your turn to interfere with my business. Get away." "Why are you so angry?" "Don't worry. I'm not here to ask for money. Our family doesn't care about such a small fortune. Consider it as a payment for the years you slept with my brother. After all 6 years, more than 2,000 nights, it's not expensive at all. A prostitute on the street will cost $1,000 or $2,000 per night." She hid her lips and laughed. "Michael, don't you think so?" she asked. Beside her was Michael, an actor, who had acted in a few dramas with Priscilla's help. However, because he didn't become famous for a long time, the company stopped providing him with more projects. Why would he be with Annabelle? Priscilla asked herself, looking puzzled. Michael was quite embarrassed and didn't know whether to reply or not. Priscilla sneered. "Annabelle, go back and ask your brother whether we had sex in the past few years." Annabelle raised her eyebrow. She was old enough to know what was going to happen between a man and a woman. In her perception, it was impossible not to have sex after falling in love with someone for so many years. After all, it was 2024, and her brother was young and energetic. Then she sneered again. "Just keep pretending my brother is not stupid. Although you are annoying, you are still good-looking." "Will he let go of the meat delivered to his mouth?" Annabelle said. Priscilla laughed as well, shaking her head regretfully. "Yes, your brother isn't stupid, and I'm not ugly. So, why do you think he didn't touch me?" When Priscilla finished, she even tilted her head slightly, staring at her with amusement. Annabelle's heart got inexplicably apprehensive at her stare. She didn't know what made her so apprehensive. It was just an uneasy feeling like she was hiding some secrets from her. Her face changed slightly. "What do you mean?" Annabelle asked with a frown on her face. "Nothing. I don't like to say mean words to others. So ask him by yourself if you are curious. After all, if something really goes wrong within your family, it's a big deal for the future bloodline of the Smiths. Your father is such a traditional person. He would be very sad if he knew the truth," Priscilla said as she shook her head. Annabelle's face changed completely. Priscilla, your words are bullshit. My brother is not like what you said. Priscilla shrugged. Just consider it as bullshit, she said, turning around and holding out her card for the sales assistant. But Annabelle stopped her. Wait, she thundered. Priscilla frowned. The person she hated most was the annoying one who wouldn't let her go, just like Annabelle. What else do you want? She asked her. Annabelle snatched the dress out of the sales assistant's hand and said brutally, I'll take this dress. Don't sell it to her. Priscilla laughed out loud with anger. How childish you are! So you think you own the mall? Why are you so cruel? Annabelle lifted her chin. You are right. My father owns this mall, and if I say we won't sell it to you, then we won't sell it to you. She turned and looked at the sales assistant. I'm the daughter of Smith. You do know about the Smith family, right? The sales assistant blushed and nodded hastily. Yes, of course I know. It is one of the shareholders of the mall. Annabelle raised her eyebrows and looked at Priscilla in triumph. Priscilla was silent. Just then, a cold voice suddenly came from outside the door. I haven't heard that a small shareholder can decide for a guest. The crowd was stunned and found a man walking in with a few people. Priscilla was shocked. Why was he here? Priscilla questioned herself. Priscilla instantly tensed up and glanced behind David, but she didn't see the man in her mind. Annabelle did not know him and frowned unpleasantly, saying, Who are you? David answered and commanded the person behind him. The Lincoln always has a rule. We won't bully any customer, even if it runs a large business. How dare you be arrogant as a shareholder and bully customers in the mall? If we let you do this for a long time, it will definitely ruin the fame of the group, David said. Mr. Lawson, take down Miss Smith's words today and fling them back to Mr. Smith. Ask them not to blame us for kicking them out despite the contract. From now on, let them not get involved in the business group, he ordered. Mr. Lawson trembled and agreed hastily. Annabelle's face changed immediately. You are from the Lincoln Group? She asked, as realization dawned on her. David answered, Miss Smith has finally figured out what's going on. Even if you are from Lincoln's group, you can't make random decisions, Annabelle yells. Just wait and see if I have the right to make a decision. I'm sure Chairman Smith will tell you his decision when he gets home tonight, David said with mockery in his eyes. After that, he didn't want to talk to Annabelle and walked straight to Priscilla, whispering, Ma'am Priscilla, Mr. Lincoln is waiting for you outside. Priscilla's face changed slightly, and she bit her lips. My friend is still upstairs, she said. I'll explain to her, David replied almost immediately. Priscilla looked up at him and eventually nodded. When she went out of the shop, she walked a dozen meters to her right, and sure enough, she saw a man standing there. He was in a black suit with a serious look, deep eyebrows, handsome and upright face. Standing there, he became a natural part of the scenery. Seeing her, Frederick waved his hands towards her. Priscilla walked over and stood still a step away from him, forcing a smile on her face. Mr. Lincoln, what a coincidence. You are shopping too? Priscilla asked. Frederick tugged his lips and raised his hand to pull her over. Priscilla was shocked and stumbled, but falling into his arms was out of her expectations. What are you doing? She asked. Don't move. Frederick reached out his hands to pick off the fragment of her hair. His move was gentle and natural. Priscilla was stunned, and her face flushed involuntarily. She stepped backward, lifting a hand to tuck a stray of hair behind her ear. Priscilla was inexplicably afraid to look into Frederick's eyes. Well, thank you for sending David to help me out, she said. Frederick smiled and said in a gentle voice, I happened to pass by and noticed someone arguing in the store. It sounded like you. It turned out to be true, so I have to say we're really destined to run into each other, even when we are shopping. Priscilla looked up at him curiously. Shouldn't you be working in the company at this time of the day? How come you go shopping now? She asked. The man in front of her lied without changing his posture. I'm off today, he said. Oh, Priscilla exclaimed. Although Priscilla was a little confused about why Frederick would be off on a Monday, she figured bosses would set their schedule by themselves, so she didn't ask further. She glanced around, not seeing anyone else, and asked, "Are you shopping alone?" Frederick nodded in affirmation. "Wouldn't that be boring?" she asked. "A little bit. Can you accompany me?" he asked. Priscilla was speechless. That was a tough question, and it was weird to answer. She forced a smile and declined him politely. "I'm here with a friend. It's not very convenient." Frederick thought for a moment and nodded. "Indeed," he said. He suddenly took a black gilded card from his pocket and put it in her hand. "Then take this." Priscilla was startled. If she was not mistaken, this card should be the VIP card of Lincoln's shopping mall with a large deposit. It was a symbol of wealth and noble identity. With this card, Priscilla would be regarded as a member of the Lincoln family, and no one dared to look down on her wherever she went in the future. She opened her mouth in surprise and looked at Frederick. "You are giving this card to me? Why?" she asked. Frederick frowned as if he didn't like her question. "Doesn't my wife deserve a black card?" Priscilla didn't know how to respond to it. That really made it hard for her to refuse the card. "I haven't agreed to," she said, but was cut short by him. "We already got the license," he said. Frederick interrupted her and added seriously, "The reason I gave you 3 days is that I thought you might have difficulty accepting the fact of our marriage. However, that doesn't mean you can use it to deny our relationship. You should understand it." Priscilla's phone suddenly rang. She had to answer the phone first, as the call was from Nancy. "Hello, Priscilla. I heard you had to leave because you had something urgent to handle. What's happening?" Nancy asked, with all concern in her voice. Priscilla glanced at Frederick. His face was full of innocence, and she could only blame this on David, saying, "Nothing's wrong. I'll be right back. Don't worry," she said, reassuring Nancy. "Never mind. I just got a call from my agent. There's a temporary activity I have to attend. Maybe later. Let's meet again next time," Nancy said. Priscilla had no choice but to agree, and hung up the phone. Frederick's face was full of smiles. "Isn't your best friend coming now?" he asked. Priscilla stared at him suspiciously. "Mr. Lincoln, did you arrange this?" she asked. Frederick shook his head. "You mean I arranged for someone to ask your friend out just so I could go shopping with you? I'm not that boring, and I didn't know your friend at all." Priscilla thought what he said was true. Well, she wouldn't blame him this time. Seeing that her tension finally eased, Frederick smirked and said, "Mrs. Lincoln, do I have the pleasure of inviting you to go shopping with me?" How can anyone refuse it, considering his gentle attitude? Priscilla curled up her mouth with a leathery smile. "What do you want to buy?" she asked. "Well, help me pick out some clothes," he answered. Priscilla had never accompanied a man to buy clothes in her entire life. Ryan didn't even have that honor, but it was hard to deny that Frederick had a perfect body. Frederick had wide shoulders and a narrow waist, was slender with a perfect figure in the golden ratio, and most importantly, he was handsome. Girls in the fashion shop were attracted by his appearance. They all flushed and held their faces with an enchanted look. "Dear God, where did this man come from?" she asked. "He was so handsome. Mom, I wanted to marry him." Priscilla sat there speechlessly, nodding at every set of clothes Frederick changed into. Well, this one was good, and that one was good. It seemed every set of clothes looked good on him. After seeing so many clothes he changed, she realized there was not a single piece of clothing Frederick couldn't fit into. Regardless of the style and color, handsome and dashing, elegant and reserved, it matched him perfectly. In short, if this man became a model or entered the entertainment industry, he would be really popular due to his appearance. She couldn't help but sigh. Well, this guy was so rich, why was he still so handsome? A man with such a handsome face didn't want to cash in on his appearance. It was outrageous. Priscilla began her fantasy again, picturing in her mind how popular Frederick would be if she took charge of him. He would surely be the most valuable superstar. They wandered from afternoon to evening in the shopping mall. Priscilla was hungry. In order to thank her for helping him pick clothes, Frederick invited Priscilla for dinner. Priscilla was so hungry that she didn't refuse him. At 7 in the evening, they went to the nearby fancy restaurant for dinner. She ate 10 of the newly released steamed fresh shrimp quickly. The young man beside them looked straight at him and wondered how such an elite and handsome-looking dude could starve his girlfriend like that. How many days had passed since her last meal? Priscilla wouldn't mind her image when she was hungry. This was the skill she trained after working for several years. When she was busy most of the time, it was a luxury to eat on time. In that situation, there was no time for her to mind her appearance. She just wants to finish eating and get back to work. When she finished the 10th shrimp and wanted to grab more, the plate was suddenly carried away. She looked up and stared at Frederick, asking him blankly, "What are you doing?" Frederick handed the plate to the waiter and said in a deep voice, "Having too much shrimp at once is bad for your health. Just eat something else now." Priscilla pouted in dissatisfaction. She knew what he said was true, and she could only let go. However, after looking at the dishes on the table, she was full and didn't want to eat. Hence, she put down her cutlery. Seeing that she put down her cutlery, Frederick stopped eating. After paying the bill, they got up together and headed towards the door. They approached his car and entered. The car started, and Frederick suddenly took out a bag from his back and gave it to her. "For you," he said. Priscilla froze and took it. It was actually the dress she tried on in the mall earlier. "Why did you take this out?" she asked. Frederick smiled and answered, "Don't you like it? David saw you liked it, so he bought it." Priscilla glanced at David. Receiving a hint from Frederick, David quickly nodded his head. Yes, Miss Priscilla, I bought it. I didn't mean anything by lying to your best friend. A great man does not bear pretty grudges, so forgive me." Priscilla looked at him for a moment and smiled suddenly. Earlier, she had teased David in such a way that required punishment from Frederick. She didn't expect him to be so nervous. She nodded and pulled out her phone. "I will transfer the money to you," she said. "Never mind." David hastily refused her. "God knows his president paid the money. How dare he accept it?" He smiled and explained, "That, actually, I came up with the idea. The decision is made by him. If you want to pay the money, just give it to him," he said, and never uttered a word again after he finished. Priscilla looked at Frederick in surprise, and he said in a light tone, "I'm not short of money." Frederick turned around and looked at her with a smile. "If you want to pay me, why don't you do something else for me?" "What kind of things?" she asked. Frederick pulled a paper from the piles of documents next to him. Priscilla looked at it. It was a case of a male artist who was very popular these days under Anderson International. A male artist named John Pitt acted in a period drama and became a big hit. He was regarded as the prince from the old dynasty. But he fell into a scandal when his ex-girlfriend popped up and accused him of not only cheating and committing domestic violence during their relationship, but also swindling her of a large sum of money and never returning it. Cheating alone was enough to destroy him, not to mention swindling money. Regardless of the truth of this matter, the news was bound to hurt the artist. If it had been more serious, this news would have ended his career and future. Priscilla looked at Frederick somewhat suspicious. "Doesn't anyone in your company do PR for him?" she asked. "There is, but it isn't that effective. There are many artists in the company currently," he said. "It shouldn't be your business to worry. Isn't it a waste of time for you? Are you worried about him?" she asked. Frederick pursed his lips and paused, but he continued after a few moments. "He is my cousin. Well, because of this cousin, Priscilla was fortunate to learn a bit about President Frederick's family history in advance. Surprisingly, there was actually a Cinderella story in real life. It was said that Frederick's father was also a gentle, graceful, and handsome young man. But instead of being with the girl arranged by his family, he fell in love with a girl from a poor family. Of course, his family objected, so he took the girl and eloped. When he came back again, their child was as tall as a man's thigh, and when his parents saw this, They couldn't force them to break up, but had to agree to their marriage. That child was Frederick. John Pitt, on the other hand, was his mother's sibling's only child. Although the two families hadn't gotten along so much over the years, they would still help each other when they got into trouble. Priscilla was overjoyed to hear this. I didn't expect your father to be quite capable, so he and your mother must have a happy life now? She asked. Frederick looked out of the window, his voice tinged with depression. I guess so if they are still alive. Priscilla stalled for a moment, and the smile froze at the corner of her mouth. It took several seconds before she responded, hastily gathering her composure and whispering, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Never mind. Frederick looked at her. It's been too many years, and I have already accepted what happened to them. Priscilla didn't know what to say, and the atmosphere became awkward. She had to bring the conversation back to John's case. I can help you with that. I am available these days, but if you want me to help him, I have to meet him first. Okay, Frederick agreed. After the agreement, it didn't take long to arrive at the apartment where Priscilla lived. She opened the door and got out of the car, turning back to wave goodbye to Frederick. In the deep darkness of the night, she suddenly felt that the man sitting in the back seat of the car was somewhat lonely, like a lonely light in the long night, indescribably doleful. She felt her heart was suddenly stabbed by something, and her heartbeat raced a few notches. The car behind her pulled away until her figure had completely disappeared into the building. Priscilla turned back, looked in the direction the car left, and took out her phone. Hey, I'm calling to get information about someone. Do you know John Pitt? Priscilla has walked away from everything she built at Famous Entertainment. But she's gained something unexpected, a billionaire who sees her worth. Frederick Lincoln is not just powerful and wealthy. He's lonely, mysterious, and hiding a painful past. As Priscilla agrees to help his cousin John Pitt with a career-threatening scandal, she's about to discover that the Lincoln family has secrets of their own. And in just one day, her marriage to Frederick becomes permanent. Will she go through with it, or will she run? But before we find out what happens next, hit that subscribe button right now so you won't miss the next episode. We're uploading consistently, and you'll want to catch every single one. Turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon. That way, YouTube will alert you the moment a new episode drops. Now, I want to hear from you in the comments. Question 1. What was your favorite moment in this episode? Was it Priscilla's epic resignation, the cheque slam, or that tender moment when Frederick removed her hair strand? Question 2. Do you think Ryan is hiding a dark secret that Priscilla hinted at to Annabelle? What do you think it could be? Question 3. Will Priscilla actually go through with marrying Frederick when the 3 days are up? Or will there be a plot twist? Drop your predictions below. And if you enjoyed this episode, give this video a thumbs up. It helps us reach more romance lovers like you, and it lets us know you want more of the CEO's wife. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.